Before you even blink, I want you to imagine something. You walk into a room, you see her phone light up, and you catch that microsecond where her entire energy shifts. It's subtle, so subtle that any other man would miss it. But you're not any other man. You're standing in that doorway, and deep inside your chest, something sinks, a quiet unease, a feeling you can't explain. And if you stay with me until the very end of this video, I'm going to tell you the one psychological signal most men never catch, and it's the one that hurts the most. So listen carefully, and before we go deeper, hit the like button and subscribe, because what I'm about to reveal isn't something people talk about openly, but you deserve the truth. Now let me start by telling you something as a psychologist. Cheating almost never begins with explosive behavior. It begins with innocent behavior. Behaviors so small, so harmless looking, so normal, that a man doubts his own instincts before he ever doubts her actions. And that's why so many men get blindsided. Not because they're weak, but because human beings are wired to trust the person they're emotionally bonded to. You're designed to overlook what doesn't fit the picture you want to believe. And that's exactly how the most dangerous deceptions slip through. The first innocent behavior most men misinterpret is emotional withdrawal that feels polite, almost gentle. She's busy, she's tired, she's overwhelmed, she just needs space. None of these statements are wrong by themselves. They're not proof of anything. But when the tone changes, not the words, the tone, you can feel it. It's when she stops sharing the little things, when she no longer tells you about her day, when she answers your questions like she's checking a box instead of talking to you. Most men think, she's stressed. I don't want to pressure her. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Emotional detachment is rarely the first step of cheating. It's the second. The first step usually happens in silence, in her thoughts, long before she acts on anything. The second innocent behavior is when she becomes extra nice. Not affectionate, nice, overly agreeable, unusually calm, almost relieved. And you can't explain why. That's because guilt has two psychological paths. It either makes a person irritable and distant, or it makes them perform kindness to balance the discomfort they feel inside. She's not doing it consciously. It's a human defense mechanism, a way to feel like a good person while hiding a truth she's not ready to face. The third innocent behavior is micro changes in routine that sound logical, practical, or even admirable. She's working late, going to the gym, putting extra effort into self-improvement, spending more time with her friends. All perfectly reasonable, all socially acceptable. But the shift isn't the schedule, it's the timing. It's when these changes appear suddenly, without transition, without build-up, without context. You feel it. She used to text you while walking somewhere. Now she disappears during those exact windows. She used to call on the drive home. Now the car is silent. None of these behaviors prove anything on their own. But when a man feels his own emotional landscape changing, when he feels replaced without understanding why, he starts questioning himself instead of questioning the situation. And that's the mistake I need you to stop making. There's a moment every man experiences, but almost none talk about. The moment when she suddenly becomes unpredictable in the smallest, most innocent ways. And you brush it off because you don't want to seem insecure. You tell yourself you're overthinking. But as a psychologist, let me tell you something you rarely hear. Your mind notices patterns long before your conscious brain understands them. And when a woman starts cheating, emotionally or physically, her patterns fracture. Not in dramatic ways, in subtle ways, ways she can easily explain if you question her, which is why so many men end up feeling confused instead of suspicious. One of these innocent signs is sudden hyperprotectiveness over her phone, not locking it. That's normal, not having a password. Everyone does. I'm talking about micro behaviors. The way she angles the screen away from you without even realizing it. The way she flips her phone upside down when she puts it on the table. The way she suddenly forgets it in the car, leaves it in the other room, or turns off notifications for no reason other than, I needed a break. These are not dramatic actions. They're small, soft, quiet, and that's why they're dangerous, because they slip under the radar of a man who still believes everything is fine. Another innocent shift is when she starts talking about another man, casually, not flirting, not praising, casually, A co-worker, a gym instructor, a friend she's known forever. She says his name the same way someone mentions the weather, neutral, effortless, nothing to grab onto. But here's the psychological truth. The human mind naturally mentions what occupies emotional bandwidth. People don't casually reference those who mean nothing to them. Women especially verbalize the things floating around their inner world, even if they try to hide it. So that just a guy isn't dangerous because she said his name once. It's dangerous because of how she said it. Too light, too neutral, too perfectly ordinary. Then there's a behavior most men misinterpret entirely. She becomes less reactive to your mistakes. She stops arguing. She stops complaining. She stops pointing out things you used to fight about. And at first you think, wow, things are finally smooth. But emotional neutrality rarely comes from happiness. It comes from emotional replacement. When she no longer reacts to you, it's often because her emotional energy is now directed somewhere else. And even if she hasn't acted on anything, her mind already has a backup battery powering her through the relationship she's detached from. That's why her silence feels so cold. Another innocent behavior is when she subtly upgrades her appearance in ways she can dismiss as self-care. A slight change in her makeup, a new perfume, a different style of clothes, and she explains it easily. I wanted to try something new. She's not wrong, but who is she imagining noticing it? People don't improve their presentation for no internal reason. A shift in identity often follows a shift in emotional allegiance. And here's the part most men ignore. When she begins asking you fewer questions about your life, not because she's bored, because she no longer needs the emotional map of your world the way she used to, her curiosity has migrated. This is how cheating begins in the real world, not with betrayal, but with tiny shifts that look harmless until they're not. There's a point in every man's intuition where something inside him whispers, "This isn't the woman I knew." Not because she's become cruel or distant, but because she's become unpredictable in ways that feel almost too normal. Innocent changes that don't trip alarms, but unsettle you deep in your gut. And that gut feeling matters more than you think. Human intuition is built on thousands of micro-observations your conscious mind can't articulate. So when you feel a shift, it's usually because you sensed something real long before you could explain it. One of the most overlooked innocent behaviors is when she starts creating new boundaries out of nowhere. Boundaries are healthy, of course, but sudden boundaries that weren't there before, those are different. Suddenly, she doesn't want you to pick her up from work anymore. Suddenly, she prefers going places alone. Suddenly, she wants personal time she never needed before, and she presents it in a calm, almost logical way. It sounds harmless, even responsible, but emotional boundaries often shift when someone is protecting a new part of their life, one they don't want questioned, monitored, or intertwined with yours. Another innocent shift happens in her conversations with you. She starts choosing her words more carefully, almost as if she's editing herself in real time. She avoids certain topics, dodges questions with humor or distraction, or flips the conversation back to you before she has to explain too much. None of this looks like lying. It looks like politeness, like emotional maturity. But silence is a form of communication, and people hide what threatens their emotional stability. When a woman begins filtering her speech around you, it's usually because there's a part of her life she's trying to keep separate, somewhere she's emotionally invested. There's also a subtle form of emotional distancing that almost no man recognizes. She stops planning the future with you, not breaking up, not pulling away dramatically. She just becomes vague, non-committal. She avoids long-term plans, even casual ones, weekend trips, holidays, small dreams the two of you used to talk about. She's not rejecting you, she's pausing you, emotionally setting you on a shelf while she figures out something else brewing inside her. Most men misread this as stress or inconsistency, but it's often a sign that her emotional roadmap has shifted direction. Another innocent behavior, she becomes more private about her stress. Women naturally share the emotional weight they trust you with, but when she stops telling you about her frustrations, her fears, her daily struggles, it means something deeper. Someone else may be providing that emotional relief. Emotional cheating often starts when she finds comfort in someone else's understanding before she ever crosses a physical line. And you feel it, not because she shuts down, but because she doesn't turn to you the way she used to. Then comes the hardest innocent behavior of all. She becomes unpredictable in her affection. Warm one day, neutral the next. Engaged in the morning, distant by night. Not cold, just inconsistent. And inconsistency is one of the earliest psychological markers of emotional conflict. It means her emotions are being pulled in two directions, even if she hasn't admitted it to herself. None of these signs mean she's guilty. They mean something in the relational dynamic has shifted, and ignoring these shifts is how men get blindsided. There's a moment in a man's life where he stops analyzing her behavior and starts analyzing himself. And that's exactly where the most painful innocent signs hide, because they make you wonder if you're the problem, if you're paranoid, if you're losing your grip on reality. But as a psychologist, I want you to understand something with absolute clarity. Self-doubt is often the first emotional wound that cheating, emotional or physical, leaves on a man long before he discovers anything concrete. One of the most deceptively innocent behaviors that triggers this spiral is when she suddenly becomes harder to emotionally read. Not cold, not irritated, just unreadable. She gives you expressions that feel practiced rather than genuine. Smiles that look right but feel wrong. Her energy softens in all the right ways, but lacks the warmth you used to feel beneath the surface. And when you try to interpret it, you're left with confusion instead of clarity. Emotional opacity is not natural for a woman who is fully invested in you. It usually happens when her inner world is conflicted, when she's compartmentalizing emotions she doesn't want you to sense. Another subtle behavior is when she starts minimizing her alone time with you, not canceling, not rejecting, just gently replacing one-on-one moments with group activities, plans with friends, or low-energy evenings where she prefers movies over conversation. It feels harmless, even cozy, but it also shields her from deeper connection, because deeper connection requires vulnerability, and vulnerability reveals internal conflict. When a woman's emotional loyalty starts shifting, intimacy becomes something she subconsciously avoids because closeness with you contradicts the direction her feelings are drifting. Then there's the change in how she uses her social media. Not posting more selfies or editing her pictures, that's obvious. I'm talking about curated invisibility. She gets quieter online, but more active behind the scenes. She becomes selective with what she posts, careful with what others can see, almost as if she's creating a version of her life that keeps you comfortable while keeping her new emotional attachments shielded. A woman who is transparent has nothing to manage. A woman who is conflicted begins managing perceptions without even realizing it. Another innocent shift is when she becomes overly independent with tasks or decisions you used to help with. She fixes things herself, solves problems without you, stops asking for advice or assistance. That independence looks empowering, and it is. But what most men don't realize is that dependence and emotional closeness go hand in hand. When she stops leaning on you, she's emotionally detaching in small, almost invisible increments. Cheating doesn't always begin with passion. Sometimes it begins with a quiet withdrawal of dependence. There's also the subtle distancing of routine affection, not neglect, just reduction. She hugs you for a second less. Her kisses feel slightly distracted. She holds your hand with less intention. She doesn't lean her head on your shoulder the way she used to. These aren't rejections. They're fading habits, micro-behaviors that tell you where her emotional energy is, or isn't, flowing. And then there's the most psychologically significant sign. She stops correcting you. Women correct, refine, guide, and express dissatisfaction when they care about the relationship's direction. The moment she stops giving feedback, stops expressing preference, stops caring about choices, it often means she's emotionally disengaging from the shared future you once had. These signs are innocent, they're subtle, they're deniable, and they're exactly why most men feel blindsided when the truth eventually surfaces. Because none of these actions look like betrayal, yet they all feel like distance. There's a specific kind of pain men feel when something is wrong but nothing looks wrong. When she's still kind, still present, still doing all the things a good partner is supposed to do, Yet your chest tightens every time she walks past you with a smile that feels slightly borrowed. This is the stage where the most innocent behaviors mask the deepest emotional distance. And it's also where most men begin blaming themselves for shifts that were never their fault. One of the clearest yet softest signs is when she starts becoming strangely patient with you. Not loving, patient. She no longer reacts when you forget something. She no longer gets upset when you're late. She no longer expresses frustration when you make mistakes. At first, it feels like she's maturing or becoming more peaceful, but psychologically, this kind of patience often emerges when someone's emotional investment is fading, when she no longer sees the relationship as something worth protecting or improving. Her reactions flatten. It's not peace, it's detachment disguised as calm. Then there's the change in her laughter. Not that she stops laughing, she just laughs differently, softer, shorter, or sometimes louder, but with an emptiness behind it. When a woman is conflicted or hiding something, her natural emotional expressions become slightly disconnected from her authentic feelings. You sense it even if you can't prove it. Her joy no longer syncs with the moment you're sharing, and you're left wondering when you became someone she smiles around instead of someone she smiles with. Another innocent behavior appears in her schedule. She develops micro-routines that don't include you. Small pockets of her day that used to be shared or casual but become private, even sacred. A certain time she goes for a walk, a new habit of stepping outside to get fresh air, a nightly skincare routine that takes longer than usual. None of these are wrong, but cheating, especially emotional cheating, often builds itself inside these quiet, predictable spaces. Little moments she subconsciously reserves for thinking about someone else. Then comes the shift in how she asks questions. She still asks about your day, your work, your plans, but without the emotional follow-up. She listens, but doesn't dive deeper. She hears you, but she doesn't connect. It becomes polite curiosity rather than genuine engagement. This is one of the hardest signs for men to detect because nothing looks out of place. But you feel it, the lack of emotional echo. Conversations become informational, not intimate. Another innocent sign is when she starts complimenting you in vague, surface-level ways. She calls you nice, sweet, supportive, a good man, but stops giving specific, meaningful affirmations. When a woman is emotionally invested, her compliments are detailed, personal, connected to memories and moments. When she's drifting, compliments become generic because her emotional energy is scattered. Then there's a behavior that cuts deeper than men admit. She becomes more empathetic, but from a distance. She comforts you, but her eyes don't soften the way they used to. She listens, but she doesn't wrap herself emotionally around your pain. Instead, she gives you rational, almost therapeutic responses. Good advice, supportive words, but missing the emotional closeness that once made you feel like you were her world. And finally, one of the most quietly painful signs, she stops initiating shared joy. Not love, not plans, joy. She no longer suggests fun things to do together. No longer gets excited over small shared moments, no longer lights up when she talks about memories you built. Joy is a woman's emotional signature in a relationship. When it fades, something inside her has already shifted far beyond the surface. These behaviors aren't malicious. They aren't proof. They aren't accusations. They're emotional ripples, signals that the connection is drifting, even if her actions still look beautifully normal. There's a point where the signs stop feeling like coincidences and start feeling like a quiet truth. Your heart already knows, but your mind refuses to accept. Not because you're weak, but because you loved her with a sincerity she no longer mirrors back. And the most painful part of all is that the final innocent behaviors, the ones I'm about to tell you, are the ones a cheating woman can hide behind forever. They are socially acceptable, emotionally subtle, and completely deniable. But they are also the signals men regret ignoring the most. One of these signs is when she becomes strangely protective of your emotions, not out of love, out of guilt. She becomes careful with her words. She avoids conflicts entirely. She tries not to upset you. She doesn't challenge you even when she normally would. It's not peace, it's preservation. She's preserving the image of herself she wants you to hold on to. She's preserving the comfort that keeps you unsuspecting. Guilt makes people gentle in ways that feel sweet but lack depth. When she's hiding something, her kindness becomes padded, softened, safe. And you feel the difference even if you can't explain why. Then there's the shift in how she touches you. Not less, just differently. Her affection becomes functional, not emotional. She hugs you, but her body feels slightly angled away. She kisses you, but there's no pull, no subconscious leaning in. She touches your shoulder, your back, your chest, but with the energy of someone maintaining equilibrium, not connection. Human touch is honest. And when a woman's emotional loyalty moves elsewhere, her body says things her mouth never will. Another innocent sign is that she stops getting jealous. She doesn't react to other women around you. She doesn't ask who texted you. She doesn't care when you dress up or post something online. And at first you think she finally trusts you. But true trust still comes with emotional presence. Indifference is something else entirely. When a woman's emotional investment has drifted, jealousy disappears not because she feels secure, because she no longer feels threatened by losing you. There's also a subtle withdrawal that hides in her future language. She doesn't use we as often. She doesn't talk about next month, next season, next year. Her words become grounded in the present because the future, your shared future, feels uncertain inside her. Even if she isn't consciously cheating, her emotional world is shifting, and her language reveals it before her actions ever do. And then finally, the sign most men ignore until it's too late. She becomes peaceful, not happy, peaceful. A woman who is cheating, emotionally or physically, often enters a strange state of calm. The conflict inside her reduces because she already made an internal decision you weren't part of. She's no longer wrestling with herself. She's no longer trying to fix the relationship. She's no longer fighting for closeness. That peace you feel isn't stability, it's resignation. And it's the most dangerous kind of quiet a woman can have. Now, before this video ends, here is the one psychological signal I promised you at the start, the one most men overlook. It's simple, subtle, and devastating. She stops being curious about your inner world. Not your actions, not your schedule, not your mistakes, your inner world, your thoughts, your feelings, your fears, your dreams. When a woman stops wanting to understand your mind, it's because her emotional energy has already started bonding elsewhere. Emotional cheating doesn't begin with attention. It begins with curiosity. And if you're a man who's felt these shifts, listen to me. None of this means she's a monster. None of this means you're unworthy. These behaviors don't prove betrayal. They reveal emotional distance. What matters now is what you do with that knowledge. Awareness is protection. Self-respect is clarity, and your intuition, that quiet voice inside you, deserves to be heard. If this video opened your eyes, hit the like button, subscribe, and stay strong. Your heart deserves honesty, and so does your future.